All right. Hello, everyone, and thanks for coming to my talk. So today we'll talk about event storming. But before we start, I would like to let you know what this talk is not about. So this talk is not about how to become an expert in event storming in 40 minutes. Yeah, because I know that's impossible because actually I run training in event storming, architecture, domain design, and things like that. My name is Vadzim. I'm a co-owner at TrainingTech, where we run all those trainings, and I work as well as a hands-on architect at Apoteken. So Apoteken is the biggest pharmacy chain in Norway, and by the way, we have around 100 people working in our IT department, maybe to your surprise. Some things like outside my work, so I have family, I enjoy nature, skiing, playing the guitar and singing, fishing, making some goodies for my family, and I like to do all of those things with my family. So today my goal is to show how event storming can be useful for developers, because NDC is a developer conference, right? It's not, I don't know, it's not an HR conference. Nobody is hiring you here, and you don't provide your personal data for some cheap gifts, correct? So that's why I would like to show event storming for developers. And I would like to inspire you to take this event storming with you when you back at work. So, by the way, I'll wrap up with two interesting stories related to event storming. So if I forget, so please remind me that, okay? First of all, let me give you some context, so we'll be on the same page. And I would like to ask you a couple of questions. So, how many of you agree that many people work on projects they actually don't understand? Please raise your hands. Perfect. Oh, sorry, it's not perfect, but perfect that I see so many hands. So you agree with me. And this is very true because we are often focused on a particular things, like maybe implementing some integrations, maybe implementing some background jobs, working on something else, and we don't know what our actually colleagues work on, or yeah, things like that. So, and we kind of miss the knowledge, and our knowledge is fragmented, and which leads that we don't have like a common understanding of our projects together with business analysts, our testers, domain experts, and other people. Next one, systems often contain wrong developers' assumptions rather than knowledge of domain experts. Who agrees? Yes, still I see some, many hands. And because of lack of time, lack of communication, lack of knowledge, we end up with situation when we need to make decisions. And we make those decisions on our own, maybe with our neighbor colleague. And we just assume, all right, so maybe end users will like this, or maybe they won't like this. Yep, and we move those assumptions from our development machines to production. Yes, that usually happens. By the way, in corporate world, sometimes we don't even get feedbacks from real end users. We just don't know if they like our solutions or not. And the next one, did you experience the following? One architect spends a lot of time on gathering requirements from different people and then assumes that developers will quickly understand what they will implement. Who experienced that? Maybe you were that architect, maybe you are that architect. Yes, some of you, yes, which is good for your salary, by the way. However, what can happen with that architect? That architect can just disappear. And what will the next architect do? Probably the same, right? And I have real life example. It happened to me. that one guy spent about 9 months on gathering requirements, just gathering all the knowledge, writing some documentations, drawing diagrams, and then he disappeared. And I had only 3 months to catch up. It was quite hard, right? And I'm not saying anything bad about that guy because it was awesome architect, but I'm saying that there is something wrong with the process. So let's just go real quick through the list about what can help us. So first of all, we would like to discover implicit dependencies on the business level. Something that's not statically defined in our code base, however, something else like user, maybe end user trends, market trends, things like that. We need to transfer the knowledge between important people. That's kind of, I won't spend much time on this. Discovering the most important events and problems like different bottlenecks, legal restrictions, etc., GDPR issues, and solving business problems rather than blindly implementing requirements. And I know that many of us, and I was on this situation when the business just say what they want, like please add the button because we need to, or just they don't say because they just I need another screen where I can import some Excel file and you will process it. But why? Could it be done in another way? That's why when I hear this phrase like give me your requirements, it's always like a red flag for me. Yeah, probably we should discuss opportunities and problems with the business, not please give me your requirements. All right, so maybe all of that is too abstract, like, you know, you should have a very good corporate culture, you should have knowledge transfer between your people. All right, nobody says like how to do this. So could it be closer to the code? So let me try. And now let's imagine, what if you had names of your main classes in your domain model? What if you had names of your APIs, maybe REST APIs, maybe your public methods in that domain model? What if you had knowledge about people, different people who will use your system? What if you had information related to how actually users make their decisions? What if you had information about important domain, about important business rules? What if you had information about your events, especially even in your event-driven architecture? Events really matter. And what if you had information about systems you will integrate with? And then some questions that need to be answered by domain experts. And what if you had clusters of those? What if you had bounded context? By the way, who is not familiar with domain-driven design? So bounded context, you can read it as service or with some approximation microservice, okay? So information about your bounded context. Would it be nice to have it before you start coding? Who would like to have it before you write your first line of code? Exactly. I would love to have this because I don't like to make changes along the way because it's costly and you feel like frustration. Again, your assumptions, you didn't understand it in the right way and you need to rewrite it now. And let's imagine that this can be done in hours. In hours. So sounds like a magic, but there is no magic here because this is a result of an event storming session. It can be done in hours. And event storming, in a nutshell, is nothing else than one of the most effective meetings you can have. No magic at all. Let's understand event storming a bit better. So I hope you're excited to hear about it, how to run it. So event storming is a collaborative workshop when we bring all the people together in one room and we use some hours in order to understand, in order to get all of this knowledge about the things I showed you before. Some examples of event storming sessions. So they are real people, not AI generated. I hope you see that. real event storming workshops. Main elements of event storming is just for future use. When you can just, when you watch the video, you can go back and see the main elements. And now I would like to go through very quickly through the list of why event storming is useful. So first of all, is faster and more enjoyable than traditional methods, and I will show you why. It helps developers and business people to know each other. So before I ran event storming in my company, I just greeted some people just by passing them in canteen. But after that, I am so glad that I know many people now from my company. Event storming helps to find the common language between developers and business people. By the way, who is practicing domain-driven design? Could you please shout what this common language means in domain-driven design? What's the name for this? Ubiquitous language, exactly. So, which means that event storming contributes heavily to domain-driven design. Event storming helps discover important questions before writing the code. I would like to emphasize it. That's so important. And helps get a strategic design, define boundaries and their dependencies. I showed you bounded context before. So how to run it? First of all, we start with invitations. And some of you may think, oh my gosh, so boring. I wanted to see how we actually run it. But unfortunately, I saw many people who failed event storming because they didn't think so much about invitations. And I can say that invitations are just 50% of a successful event storming session. So please put quite much attention to invitations. So what do we do? We try to find as many people as you can who are important for the exploration. And we basically need two groups of people. The first group who have questions, and the second group is who have answers. If you invite only development team, then you have people who have questions, but you don't have people who have answers. That's why it's important to think about who you will invite. Some of the people won't show up. That's why we need to always think about backups. Let's say you invite some domain experts in some area, and you choose, all right, I will invite this one guy, let's say Peter. And then Peter has problems, maybe with family, maybe with sickness, and Peter doesn't show up. Maybe it was Anna who could also help you, but you didn't invite her, which means that now you miss the knowledge. You have only people who have questions. And there should be clear who will be a facilitator. So a special role who actually runs the event storming session. And the facilitator is responsible for workshop preparation, explanation of what to do, but very briefly, management of long conversations, and there will be long conversations. We need to be able to interrupt people very politely. And facilitator should be full of energy. So if you are kind of, introvert developer, you should work on your soft skills, because you should engage people. They should feel like, okay, so we are engaged, we do something very useful and funny. All right, so we are done with, forgot about this, give the context to the audience. So they should know what they will explore. We shouldn't say that we explore the system X, and that's it. They should know the scope. That's important. And if you, let's say, redesigning the system, you should let them know whether we will explore the existing system or how system should be. Otherwise, it will be a mess of information coming from them. That's why it's important to give them context. Next one, room setup. Still not running event storming, we need to set up the room. So here we need a long straight wall. By the way, it was like a funny story. I had a call with one of my clients, and she said okay, yeah, we have a good room. Yeah, you can just come. And I know that I should ask for video. Could you please show me? And it was like a long straight bolt, however, interrupted with 3 windows. And I got the question, but we could just, like use this part and then this part and then that part. Yeah, so there should be no interruptions, okay? And at least like a 6-8 meters long. So you have like an impression of unlimited space. So seats are not easily available, which means that people are standing all the time if they can stand. And which means that when we are working together, you don't have people just bringing their chair and sitting like that and helping others. So people should stand. Enough space to move, that's as well important. Shouldn't be any inconveniences regarding this. Should be plenty of like sticky notes of different colors. We'll talk about them. There should be enough healthy food and beverages. People shouldn't get thirsty and very hungry. And should be flip chart or anything that can work as a legend. And timer visible to everyone. Unfortunately, many forget about timers. And they just do this like, we are done when we are done. And then they manage to run only the first phase of EventStorming, and then they run out of time. That's why it's important to have all the parts of the EventStorming time boxed. And people should see that timer all the time. So now we go to running EventStorming. And the first phase is chaotic exploration. And yeah, chaotic exploration, which means that it should be chaotic, no order at all. So you ask people to write the facts about what can happen in your system in the past tense. Yeah, and you use those like orange sticky notes. And there should be like a couple of rules about those sticky notes. First of all, people should understand what you are writing. Just believe me, it happened like maybe 4 times. I asked like, could you please tell me who wrote this note? And nobody answers. Strange, but it happens. Yeah. So it should be readable. It should be readable by others, what you write. And you write it in a past tense, okay? And then you just place it on the board. You don't care too much about the order. What you need to do, you just grabbing everything from your head to the board. You don't communicate to anyone. You just do it on your own. You don't use any computers, nothing. Just only your knowledge, and you put it on the board. So why is it useful? It's the first step to find common vocabulary for the participants. So language starts kind of appearing on the board. Everyone's knowledge starts to visible to others. People usually get surprised, okay, so how many sticky notes we got? Nice. And most of the events will be the domain events in your code, which is nice. One useful tip, write domain events so others can read. That I mentioned. Next one, when we are done with this chaotic exploration, by the way, I hope you saw it. I have this like a small timer in the corner that says like a 10-15 minutes, and usually it should be enough. Usually I have like a 10 minutes, and people think, oh, 10 minutes, so short. But after 9 minutes, after the kind of 9th minute, almost everybody is just standing and doing nothing. So 10-15 minutes should be enough. Next, we would like to make an order of it. And the phase is called enforcing timeline. So we use different techniques to put them in order according to the time. And I don't have time to explore every technique, but I'll show you 2. So the first thing is that we identify so-called pivotal events, which means that the most important events in your system. Usually, those are events that cannot be easily, just unrecoverable events, for example. You just can't go back. That's very important. Yeah. For example, if you take a look at that dispute I showed you before, it can be like a dispute closed. When dispute closed, it's pretty unrecoverable. You're done, kind of. And one more thing is sometimes you will have processes that can run in parallel. So you don't have just an order from the left to the right? So you have some parallel processes. And for this, you use swim lanes. So basically those, this is a kind of red line where you can just put event in clusters. Okay, so why is it useful? Pivotal events and swim lanes can help you identify service boundaries in the future. That will be like things that will help you in the future. Not now, but in the future. Understanding of the system gets better, and many questions arise, and some of them cannot be answered and turn to hotspots. And we'll take a look at hotspots, what hotspot means. Just one useful tip: when you make an order of events, you work in dynamic groups. So let's say you say, like, we identify maybe 5 pivotal events. Then we will have 4 groups. It depends on amount of people. You may have 2 groups, 3 groups. Let's say we have 4. They work, but when you run the next phase, you just mix them. Maybe group number 1 will go and work instead of group number 4, or maybe you can mix people completely between the groups. Yeah, that's a very useful, because people just don't stick to a particular part of the process. And hotspots, they represent unclear topics or questions that cannot be easily resolved just at the very moment. So as a facilitator, when you see 2 people discussing one thing for 3 minutes and they cannot come to agreement, so you should politely interrupt them and create a hotspot. Okay, so please never allow people discussing things too much, because it will just drain the time. Yeah, so that's a hotspot. When we are done with that, so we see, okay, so everything is in order. Now we add more things. We add people or actors, and we add external systems. So people, roles, actors, so basically our users that are related to certain events. And external systems that are related as well to some specific events. Yep. So you identify them, and you will get even more knowledge about who will use your system. External systems show the integration you will implement in the future as well. It's very important knowledge for developers, right? To know about your integrations, because some integration may take maybe 2 months of work. And this part usually leads to even more unanswered questions, even more hotspots. One useful tip: don't force participants to draw humans. If you read a book about EventStorming, you will see like those, how do you call it, actors maybe? Yeah, like humans, written everywhere with crown, with some other stuff. However, just people without that good drawing skills will hate you after drawing like maybe the 10th time that person. So my suggestion is you can just like draw avatars. Circle and the letter. Circle, letter. Much better. And people, like, they don't hate you, they just can do their job. When we're done with that, the next step is to run explicit walkthrough and to define some problems and opportunities. So let's start with the explicit walkthrough. So what are we doing here? We select a narrator that will tell a story from the left to the right about our system. If you have a huge system, maybe you will need several narrators. And some people may think like, okay, so but come on, we have identified events, pivotal events, users, external system, some hotspots. Why do we need to spend like from 30 to 90 minutes on telling the story. And believe me, that knowledge you have now just identified can be very fragmented. And you will see that some parts just simply missed. And after telling the story, you will end up with new domain events and even more hotspots. All right, so that's important to run this session. And in the end, you can also run, it's optional, but you can have like an arrow voting. Let's say you have 20 hotspots after this phase. So how to deal with them? Should we just go one by one, from left to the right, top down? Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's not that easy. That's why you can use those small blue sticky notes, and each person, for example, can cast 2 votes and just stick them to a specific hotspots. Okay, and then you have a backlog where you have based on the amount of votes. And opportunity, like one more sticky note that can as well show you some, let's say, knowledge about what can be done better, or maybe what brings you money or any other positive outcome. As well, important knowledge to have if your, for example, current system or current process doesn't have it. So why is it useful? The whole group can verify the truthfulness of the entire story. So you have a narrator, you have a group, they listen to it, and they should be actively kind of participate in the storytelling. Common understanding becomes even better. That's very true. This like explicit walkthrough helps us to understand process or system much better after the understanding the whole story. And this part usually results in more sticky notes like domain events, hotspots, and opportunities, which I have already mentioned. And after that, we can say that big picture EventStorming done. So this all of those phases we call big picture EventStorming. And now you can actually take a pause. So maybe you don't need to proceed with EventStorming, or you can proceed depending on your system. If your system is, for example, small, you can continue. So some useful tips about big picture EventStorming. All the phases should be time boxed. Again, common failure. We are done when we are done. Doesn't work with EventStorming. It should be time pressure. Not all domain events with the same text are duplicates. Some maybe wrote, let's say, dispute resolved. Some wrote dispute closed. Some wrote something else very similar to it, and people think, oh, those are duplicates, we'll just remove them. Usually you should ask, like, what do you mean by that? Sometimes the same wording doesn't mean the same meaning. Long conversations should be politely interrupted and replaced by hotspots. I mentioned it. Never use technical terms like aggregate root, bounded context, etc. with domain experts. So once you say aggregate, oh, will be our aggregate, then this curtain on their eyes will just go down. Okay, they starting talking about their just weird things, so we won't be engaged after that. So you should avoid any technical terms. Now you're getting knowledge, only that. And prepare for personal issues, long discussions, or for example, a person dominating others. That can as well happen. Maybe you have some charismatic manager. That may happen. You should as a facilitator, handle those cases. Mix the groups. Try to ask other people. Just, don't allow one person dominating others. And discuss only visible things. Real story. We met in one room, one person opened their laptop and started typing. And I just realized, okay, so probably it could lead to some mistake or maybe missed knowledge, because others, they just don't see what that person is typing, right? Which means that we shouldn't have any external resources. All the knowledge, all the new ideas should go to the board, not to your laptops, not to your notebooks, only to the board. Once you discover something new, write it on the board. Okay? Everybody can see, everybody can confirm that they understand what you have just done. So before going further, it's important to resolve the most important hotspots. So if you have some really blurry spaces on your board, first of all, resolve hotspots, because maybe you lack some events and you can't just proceed with the next phase. All right? And you can, as I said, you can take a pause after this big event, picture EventStorming, maybe run another meeting for newer sessions. And the new session is called process modeling. So it's still not kind of technical meeting, but it's a bit closer to the technical meeting, and domain experts still participate. And here we identify like 3 more sticky notes. The first one is commands. Commands is an action or intention. So if we have event like a dispute close, so the command can be close dispute. Yeah, so it should show intention. And remember, it will be your future API, most probably. You identify read models, something that help users make their decisions. For example, in order to resolve the dispute by a support team, I need to have all the information at on my screen related to order, user conversation, and other things. And then, as a developer, for you, it will be very important information, not only how you will deal with your UX, but maybe it will be, you will get an idea, oh, maybe we need to apply CQRS here, Common Query Responsibility Segregation pattern, because you need to get information from different sources. And that kind of, silly green sticky note can help you with that. And the last one, where I have it, yeah, policy. Some important business rules. For example, whenever dispute doesn't have any comments, it can be automatically resolved. So if a user accepts resolution, proposed resolution by the seller, and without any comments, we can automatically resolve it. If they maybe ran some conversation, maybe you need to take a look at it as a support representative. So important business rules. Why is it useful? Commands heavily contribute to your future API design. Read models can help with UI-related decisions. And please remember CQRS. Policies may turn to important domain logic in your code. It's so nice just to have those business rules, because you can basically implement even classes that correspond to each business rule. So nice. And useful tip, don't wait for process modeling if you discover a policy earlier. For example, you are ordering some events. Just you remember the previous phases, right? And someone says a very important business rule. You shouldn't say, wait. We will wait for process modeling, and then we will add only the sticky notes. It's a hard rule. Never add policies before process modeling. So it's not true. So if you identify it, please add it. Don't wait for it. And next one, finding bounded context. This is a technical meeting. Sometimes you can as well invite domain experts, sometimes depending on your context. However, over here you just try to evaluate different information, like your vocabulary, different roles who are using the system, related business scenarios, and then you identify your boundaries, which means that it will be your services or microservices. So you just get a bit information about your future system architecture. So you understand what services you will have. useful tip, domain experts may also help find bounded context. Again, real life example. I was so surprised that I managed to explain what bounded context is to domain experts in 3 minutes. However, I didn't say the word bounded, I said only context. And they just understood it, and they helped me to identify bounded context. I was so surprised, it was easy. Yeah, so just don't be afraid. Then we go to really technical meetings. Here we don't need any domain experts, I would say. So we discover our aggregates. Aggregate is a term from domain-driven design. If you're not familiar with domain-driven design, for you it can mean that it's a main classes or graphs of objects in your domain model. I don't know how to explain it quicker, but I hope you get the idea. So main classes in your domain model. And you evaluate like related events, life cycles, and different like business rules that apply to them. And you end up with those like a big yellow sticky notes with your aggregates. Why is it useful? Aggregates are most important classes in your domain model. That knows everyone who practicing domain-driven design. It's really important to identify aggregates. And then, just useful tip, avoid identifying too big aggregates. Sometimes we may think, okay, so everything is around dispute. So now let's just call it dispute. Sometimes your domain model or your business, you may have so many business cases that you may end up with maybe 3 aggregates related to dispute, but they will correspond to certain business scenarios. Okay, so please don't just be fooled by this, looking at events and immediately saying that, okay, will be my aggregate for all the clusters of similar events. Okay, that's an important rule. And that's it. However, you may still have the following questions. I will try to anticipate them, and then I will ask you if you have more. First of all, will EventStorming give me 100% solution? No. EventStorming is not a golden hammer. So please get me right. Don't get me wrong. You can still miss some knowledge. However, I would say that it's an affordable, good hammer. So nothing should prevent you to buy it, because it's just a few hours meeting, nothing else. So why not to run it and get this knowledge before you write the code? Even if you miss some knowledge, but you will get a lot of knowledge. Does EventStorming work only for new projects? No. EventStorming also helps understand the current system and processes. Again, real-life example, we had a document describing how we develop and release our software. And it was kind of questionable because I didn't get it. In my project, it was different. I ran EventStorming, and we identified, I think, like 20 hotspots. 20, which means that people just didn't understand. So why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why can't we do it in another way? Yeah, and we found out that this process described in our documentation could perfectly apply to only one project. Yeah, so that was good, like a way to show just after 2 hours that we have questions. Is EventStorming about any hard rules? Not at all. Feel free to add read models during explicit walkthrough, for example, if you need. And as a facilitator, this is a nice one, you create an illusion that everything is under control. However, it's not. So when I run EventStorming, I have no idea what will happen, honestly. Because it's just, like an empty board. I don't know how they will behave and how they will put their sticky notes, but you give a structure. And people feel like everything is under control. But it's not. So it's an illusion, but it's a nice illusion. What if we need to remember additional information? Let's say not related to any sticky note. You can use board as well. You can, for example, grab any sticky note, and, for example, you have this knowledge. We have orders. Each order must consist of from 1 to n other lines, and which each other line must consist of n 1 to m product lines. You can just write this on sticky note and just put it on the board. Yeah. So it's just you have a lot of space. Just use it. How to run EventStorming in my company? I don't have a clear answer for you because I don't know your managers. You need to convince many people. However, one suggestion that really works is to start small. Don't take a big system on the first run. So you should really start small. So pick some small system and try EventStorming there, and you will learn a lot, really a lot. In my case, it was a small system, very small system, and we thought like, all right, let's try EventStorming, so maybe we will learn something, but not so much. Yeah, it's really small. And after 2.5 hours, we got 10 hotspots. Like 10 questions, nobody had answer for. And we went through those questions. And actually, we discovered that one functionality can be completely removed, simplifying our domain model. Completely removed. One person just got this idea. Again, it was really nice. When to stop EventStorming? So you can actually, yeah, it's really up to you, and you can add details. Maybe after 10 days, after a month, you may stop. So when you just feel that you just don't like all the additional sessions, the value of them like diminishes. So you can just stop doing it, and maybe you don't need it now. Can I run EventStorming online? Very popular question. Yes, you can. However, there are some caveats, like technical challenges. So, oh, we don't hear you, my microphone doesn't work. You have very robotic voice, and you're so sorry, you interrupt all the time, things like that. So, and it really disrupts the whole meeting. So I don't recommend to run it unless your people just sit in different all the time zones on the world. So in the world, so you can't do anything else. So again, it's better to run it than not run it. However, if you can invite all the people to the same room, just do it. Distractions and multitasking. Do you recognize the picture? You're on an online meeting, and this face. Someone is very attentive to what you are saying, yes? Yeah, and interpersonal interactions. So when I'm standing here and talking to you, you see my body language as well. When you see only this part, it's kind of hard to understand what actually people mean sometimes. Okay, but when we are done with EventStorming, so what's next? You can digitize it. For example, move to Miro or any other tool like that. Or maybe you can keep a paper version if the room, if your premises allows it. You can document in a place accessible to the team. And you can plan technical related work, like your system architecture, Jira backlog, things like that. So that's like natural steps after EventStorming, when you have all this knowledge. If I will say anything about EventStorming and AI today, because AI is everywhere, right? I should include it in my talk. Not this time. But if you actually found something interesting about AI EventStorming, please come to me and tell me. I would gladly listen to it, really. Yeah, but I don't know, maybe hopefully we don't have AI there, so we can still interact with real people and enjoy working together. So, in short words, what is EventStorming? For me, EventStorming is the best starting point I can get, the best starting point I can get in hours. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, do you have any questions? Yes?
Yes. I'm wondering about, okay, let's start. It's about changes in the environments and system changes. For example, how how do you respond to that? So we had another talk today about architecture, which is we shouldn't be stiff about those things. Yeah, how do you respond to the changes all the time?
Yeah, so the question was like how we respond to changes that happen like after we have run EventStorming, right? So actually it's I would say it's up to you how you work with it, how you address it. So you let's say you may run EventStorming, you get some initial input, and you let's say you have already started with system architecture, you started coding and things like that, and then some change arises. Yes, and it will, because the only one constant in software like development is change. Yeah, so it will happen. Yeah, and it's up to you whether you will, for example, you have a digitized version of EventStorming in Miro, and you may say, okay, so now this part is totally wrong. We need to explore it again. You can do this. Or maybe you may say, all right, so this is like this is a change that can be just addressed via our backtracking system and just implement it as user story. So it's basically, it depends on change. So there is no like, specific limits or hard rules about how to respond to the change. Yeah, so I hope this answers a bit, yeah. Yes?
In the beginning, you asked us to remind you of something. I don't remember what that was, but did you remember?
Thank you very much. And I forget it. Always, yeah. So, huh? Slack.
You put the presentation
Uh-huh.
in the Slack that we can get it.
Yeah. So, I'll do it. Yeah. So, two stories. The first one, actually, I told you about. It was that small system, and we ended up with 10 hotspots. So nobody expected that. Nobody. It was real surprise. And then another one was that we ran EventStorming, and one part was really blurry in the end. And I was thinking that, oh my gosh, I was a bad facilitator. I couldn't do it well. So yeah, let's use 1 more hour and another day. We used one more hour, still blurry. We didn't understand it. Okay, last try, 1 more hour. We used it, and then we got an idea. But why do we need this? Because 2 different systems actually can take over, and we can integrate them together directly instead of developing it. So the conclusion was to abandon the project. What's a nice conclusion? Yeah. Maybe not if you're a consultant, but for us it was a very good conclusion. You know, achieved in hours instead of sending some developers working for months and then just realizing that it's a burden we actually didn't need. So yeah, that was a nice, again, lesson learned by me. That useful tool, very useful tool. That's I would like to spread it. Yes? All right, so we can wrap up. So just come to me if you want to discuss anything, give me some feedback. All right? Thank you so much.